Cosmic, 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 cosmic.
Welcome back to the universe of God, where we are going to dive into part 2 of the days of Noah, where we begin to discover the past so that we can understand the present. Thank you for joining me again to go into part 2 of the days of Noah. When we left off in the first video, we were talking about a hybrid creation, a forbidden mixing of fallen angels and human beings called the daughters of men, of course, and how they created a race of Nephilim giants who started to contaminate, consume, and destroy the planet at a fast, accelerated speed. So we have this offspring that, of course, was recorded in history and mythologically as being gigantic and having superhuman abilities. And those abilities were abused. And these giants were said to have consumed the resources of mankind, so much so that eventually they consumed the resources of the planet and started to turn on their human brothers and sisters, so to speak, because they were part human and they were part angel. And if we look at texts like the Epic of Gilgamesh, and if we read the Book of Enoch, and if we study some of the ancient texts that highlight these days, they're talking about the Anunnaki, and they're calling them our creators and so forth and so on. If we look at the record that is written in the earth, we've unearthed so much evidence here of a race and a time where gods were said to rule the world, where people worshiped giants, gods, cherubim, angels, angelic hosts. This stuff is recorded in the rocks of the earth, okay? So it's hard to believe that someone would take the kind of time and energy that it takes to carve in images and writings into stone unless they were true enough to have impacted their life to want to record these things. It's hard to believe for someone like me today, and many of you, I'm sure, that someone would put that kind of energy and effort into a fairy tale. It's not like just sitting down with a pen and paper or jumping on a computer and typing here. We're talking about, carving, using tools to carve in stone and in rock. So, something must motivate you to put that kind of work, energy, and time behind recording what you see and what you know and what your world is like. But if you think about it, we are in a time where the earth's resources are again being consumed. So much so that we're not sure where we're going to see our world in the next 10 years, 20 years, even sooner than that. On top of it, we have a lot of genetic mixing going on, hybridization of animals and plant species, genetically modified foods. These are sciences where, they're creating clones. They're mixing species. These things are done because they have the information that is regarded as science, and that information is used to alter species and create new things. But the thing is, these new things that are created are not created in the image and likeness of God. These things that were created in the times of Noah, were they created in the image of God? They couldn't have been, because God did not ordain for them to exist. He forbid the mixing that was taking place in the days of Noah. But disobedience had its way, and we had a race of giants. So today, if we look fast forward into the present, our world is being overtaken by a race of giant corporations who are, allowing the earth's resources to be consumed so that they can make money. And they are also altering the atmosphere. We have HARP, which messes with the weather. We have chemtrails. We have, genetic modification of food, plants, animals. We have some very similar things happening today. So we may not walk around seeing giant Nephilim that they seen in those days of old, or we may not see them yet. But we are seeing the fruit of the same tree. Okay. But are you starting to understand a little bit more about what Noah's day could have looked like, the days of old? The days of Noah are like something out of a sci-fi movie. But the difference is the story and its parts are not made up of folklores and fables to keep us believing in a mythical god or gods. Please let me clearly state, I've discovered no mythical god, but I've discovered the God of the ages, the God of the universe. The story is the telling of what and the foretelling, the telling of what was, and it's the foretelling of what will be when history begins its race around the mountain of repeating itself. Before you consider this story true and say it could never happen to us, or consider the story not true and say it can never happen to us, now consider instead how you marvel at the superheroes that are glorified across the TV screens of the planet. The idea of such superpower beings and heroes from other worlds and even ours, appeal to our supernatural nature to believe there is more and long for the utopia of life and the hereafter. The Marvel characters themselves seem to retell stories of time about heroes of old when we consider the characters in these stories like Iron Man, who is practically transhuman through technology, and Thor, who is from heaven and of a divine nature, or even the Hulk, who is a crossbreed of supernatural and natural existence in a person, right? The Hulk is what you would say is like a Nephilim, okay? If you look at the days of Noah as one filled with an advanced society who experienced similar issues with quick technological advancement mixed with genetic modification of the earth's people and resources, plants, animals, insects, matter, physics, etc., then you can see more clearly the parallels and how it is at least relative to real time today. So in the days of Noah, we think, of the things that we see in Hollywood, but what if we were, what if this was a time of technological advancement and maybe not the technology, that we see today? It may be a different kind of technology, but the same fruit, creating the ability to do superhuman things, to do out of this world supernatural things that you couldn't do naturally, right? I mean, think about the internet. You can transfer a message to the other side of the world instantly through a medium called technology, right? So, these people were building magnificent structures like Stonehenge and the pyramids and things that baffle the minds of archaeologists and scientists and everybody, all the ologists, okay? They baffle the minds of everyone because how could they cut the bricks or the stone, move large stones and place them with such mathematical precision to where air can't even get through. The pyramid is a mathematical astrological phenomenon. It's a construct that tells of intelligence. You can look at it and be in awe of it and know that this is a magnificent thing and this is no easy feat. But when you begin to break down the pyramid and study it, you realize that it is a work of utter intelligence, a work where they are even, saying that technology that was back then was used to move the stones into place, to levitate things. Now, again, so we're referring to a time where there was high intelligence and there was a form of technology in the land. When we look at the book of Enoch says that the giants, the fallen angels mixed with the daughters of men and created, almost what you would call an apostasy. Okay. They created a new race of beings. And they taught the humans forbidden knowledge. In the book of Enoch, it says that they taught the angels, the fallen angels, not the angels who were still rolling with the king of the universe. We're talking about the angels who left their former abode, who left their former estate, okay, and came down to the earth, okay, like an alien invasion. And they taught the people forbidden knowledge. They taught them astrology. They taught them, how to adorn themselves in makeup and weaponry. And, they taught them things that were forbidden for them to know. Why was it forbidden for them to know? Maybe because they were in a fallen state. They were in a state of prematurity where they weren't ready to handle that information. It wasn't time. I honestly don't know 100% why. But what I do know is that the angels who came to this earth, the aliens, okay, that's what you call them. That's what's blasted all over the world today. Ancient aliens, Anunnaki, whatever, beings that are not of this world, who came and created their own race of beings and began to inhabit and take over and destroy the earth. We're teaching humans forbidden knowledge, secrets of the angels. Okay. When Hitler, was going to Antarctica, he was on a mission. He was on a mission led by ancient documents, Hindu, documentation from India that had blueprints. Okay. Blueprints that were hard for a person, to understand unless you had a certain type of knowledge, so to speak, like an expert in the field, right? An expert in physics comes in and a regular person may not know what they're looking at, but a physicist can understand what they're looking at differently because we're dealing with physics, we're dealing with energy, we're dealing with the invisible realm, right? And they understand that in science differently because they're an expert in that field. So, we're talking about technology and information that was in the days of Noah that transformed a society so much so that the earth became corrupt, okay? It became corrupt. The planet was being destroyed. The resources were being consumed. You had a takeover of illegal species who were mixing DNA with other species. There's even information regarding the dinosaurs, which were called dragons, who were alive and well in that day, not 65,000 years ago, but in the pre-flood days, in the days of Noah. Okay, so this is a time of technological advancement, as well as the additional things that I've mentioned. So again, we are connecting the dots from the past to the present. And I'm hoping that you can begin to see, how these things are connected. Please join me in part 3 as we begin to unearth more about the days of Noah. Thanks for tuning into part 2. I'll see you in part 3. God bless.